when the Jay-Z Deception was put out, it was still a time in which this type of information was foreign to many people. The cult, the satanic agenda, these things were being exposed. And a lot of people woke up. A lot of people began to realize that this isn't just harmless entertainment. This is the very plan of Satan being carried out in society to draw people into perdition. And it was like, you said, okay, you see what I'm doing? I'm not going to try to hide it. I'm going to embrace it. I'm not going to try to keep it in the closet. This is what we're doing. There was a time when it accused various music artists or entertainers of being a part of Illuminati or organization. They would deny vehemently. Have you noticed how in recent years they started saying like, man, where do I sign up to be a part of the Illuminati so that I can receive? If I could be a part of the Illuminati, I'd do it immediately so that I can make the money. They all the symptoms, they blatantly put it out there right before you right now. The devil has got the minds so perverted that he can put the very thing before us now that he's using to destroy us, and we're laughing at it and saying, yeah, he won't. And that's exactly what happens with anything, right? Anything that anything that's disturbing to the sensibilities of the human mind. If you just put it in front of that person over and over and over and over again, after a season of time, it will no longer become disturbing.
What's up, Mel to Man family? This is Curtis Phillips, your host of the podcast. Today, we have the second part of my interview with Forerunner. We go into the mark of the beast. We go deeper into the Jay-Z deception. We go into worship, Sabbath, and the main beast power. We identify who the beast is. Well, rather I say he does. So it's a great conversation, very interesting. Not one that I see being had a lot. So here it is.
That is going into our mind. And when we willfully put into our minds information, even if we may know that it's not real, if we willfully subject ourselves to perverse information, it will pervert us as human beings. If we subject ourselves to corrupt information, it will corrupt us as human beings. And we have to realize how delicate and how malleable, moldable the human mind is, and how malleable our characters. And when we come to realize the fact that we are not as secure as we may deem ourselves to be, and that we're more pliable than most of us consider ourselves to be, we come to a realization of what we are as human beings, then we'll be a lot more critical about what we allow to pass into the corridors of our minds. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, it's so I go back and forth with that. Even though I know better, I think it's just, and full transparency.
I hear you.
And full transparency, just being in this physical world, but being in this physical and spiritual world, it's easy to, if you're not being intentional, to kind of forget that we are having a constant spiritual experience, that there are angels and demons and stuff around. It's not just kind of, what the world tells you today about. It's just, psychology and feelings, and, these things are not, we're having a very deeply spiritual experience. So
100%.
That's one of the things that I appreciate about it, because when I tune into your channel and your videos, I quickly snap like, all right, I know what it is. And it helps. It does take me to a deeper, I think, a level of connection with God. It's like, all right, the Lord's telling me like, hey, you snap into it. But I wanted to, one of the things in the Jay-Z deception that always sticks in my head is you had this scene where it's like, just like these endless drone bodies. And you talk about the occult and their mission to essentially brainwash, a generation. I wanted to ask you, do you feel like they have achieved that goal today?
Let me I'm going to answer your question. I don't mind. I'm going to go back to seconds that I just heard you saying, because I really appreciate your transparency and the things that you're talking about, because I think that a lot of the people really identify with what you just said. And the whole idea, and even saying, the whole idea of, we all have to be intentional about our relationship, or intentionality about our. It's not a coincidence that it was Charlie's fine. You see him when he wakes up and tells Ray what the first thing, spend time with the Lord, his Father, in prayer.
Mm.
Um, Faith and belief what that God is important, because without faith, it's impossible to please the Queen.
Mm.
But the Lord isn't just called to believe in His existence; He just calls us into relationship with Him. But continual unbroken communion with Him, like a branch that's connected to the vine. It's that continual unbroken connection with the Lord that sustains us in the midst of a crooked and diverse generation. And at any point in time, we think we can exist independent of that really strong connection. That's when we're certainly on the path of destruction. It's like I have a video that I put out, a little short. I'm going to finish. I'm going to answer your question. I have a little short that I put out, and it's of me taking a leaf off of a tree. And I asked my daughter, is it dead or is it alive? And she says, it's dead. And I said, why is it dead? And then she says, because it's not connected to the source of life, but yet it's still green, you know? And I think that's the will get a lot out of us to live our lives. And I'm still a believer. I'm still talking that Jesus talk. I'm listening to this gospel. Well, maybe I listen to the gospel music, but we're still talking that talk, and we still look like we're Christian. But are you connected to Christ in that space of time? Because even that's disconnected from the branch will remain green for a space of time.
Mm.
But if that connection is not there, it will be seen for time that in truth it's not partaking God. So I'm saying this just we have to make a decision as to whether or not we want a relationship with Christ. Not just to believe it or know about him, but have a relationship. A relationship that divided the symbol of synthesis and music between a man and a woman and a woman within the constant, could be bound within the institution of narrative, where the two become one.
Mm.
That relationship, when I wake up in the morning, just like that husband and wife are in bed and they see this fellow, the first thing is morning. We need to listen to Christ when we open our eyes. We need to talk to the Lord. Good morning. How are you doing? What do you want me to do today? How should I like today? Lord, I was struggling with this yesterday. Help me to gain the victory over those things that I was struggling with yesterday. Just in other words, I'm simply saying having that unbroken communion with the Lord, abide in relationship. Because we do not have that abiding relationship, we are susceptible to the assault of the enemy in ways that you can't even begin to get fat. And unfortunately, as you were making mention of concerning the Desensitization video, yeah, the enemy has been extremely successful in brainwashing the masses. When the Jay-Z deception was put out, it was still a time in which this type of information was foreign to many people. The occult, the satanic agenda, these things were being exposed. And a lot of people woke up. A lot of people began to realize that this isn't just harmless entertainment. This is the very plan of Satan being carried out in society to draw people into perdition. And it was like, he said, okay, you see what I'm doing? I'm not going to try to hide it anymore. I'm going to embrace it. I'm not going to try to keep it in the climate. This is what we're doing. There was a time when if accused various music artists or entertainers of being a part of Illuminati or see a form organization, they would deny the hymn. Have you noticed how in recent years they started saying something, man, where do I sign up to be a part of the Illuminati so that I can be? If I could be a part of the Illuminati, I do it immediately so that I can make the money. All the symbols, they blatantly put it out there right before you right now. The devil has got the minds of so perverted that he can put the very thing before us now that he's using, that he's using to destroy us, and we're laughing at him. He said, anymore. And that's exactly what happens in the speedy thing, right? Anything that is anything that's disturbing to the sensibilities of the human mind, if you just put it in front of that person over and over again, after a season of pot, it will no longer become disturbing. It'll become commonplace because they've seen it so many times. They've heard it so many times that now they become desensitized to it. The devil has desensitized the generation of men and women. It's very clear. Yeah, I give this analogy, and I don't know. I'm just going to be forthright, all right? And right. I hope people are not too disturbed by it, but I'm still going to give it.
Yeah.
I'm still going to give it. There was a time when people living alternative lifestyles, a man dressing as a woman, living as a woman, was not embraced in society. So much so that I as a child, if I was in the supermarket with my mother, and there was a man that dressed up as a woman, shopping in the same aisle that we're in. There might be 5 or so people at the other end of that aisle that he took a scene that far in our lives. But everybody's will be looking at each other.
Yeah. What's going on?
And you have to know exactly what I'm along with this. But because homosexuality has been in every form of media that you can think of, it's been brought before us consistently over and over again, that it's no longer disturbing to the natural sensibilities of the human mind that says a man is a man or a woman was a woman. And so we see these things and we just go about the thing. Now don't get me wrong. I'm by no stretch of the imagination trying to say that that the person is engaged in homosexuality, that it should be isolated from society and you should hate them and castigate them and all these things. They need Jesus just as much as the person that's lying, dealing, doing whatever. We all need Christ. And the grace of God is sufficient for everybody. But what I'm simply trying to state is the fact that things that we know are contrary to nature, contrary to that which is right. We're no longer disturbed by them. They're just common beliefs. It's like if you don't mind, I was, because I'm getting ready to do a video on something else. And me looking at some of the content as a part of the video, I heard these individuals that were on a panel together discussing some married couple that's engaged in some perverse activities, like they were being on. It was stated that they were responsible for potentially drugging women and sexually assaulting them.
Mm.
But in this panel discussion, they're like, well, it seems as though instead of just being, a couple that likes to bring a third person to their bedroom like normal couples do, no, they they drug people and just sexually assault them. And I'm listening to what they said, and I thought to myself, when did it become normal for marriages to bring a third person?
Mm.
But but in their conversations, like, yeah, if they would just bring other consenting adults, it's just normal. That's something people do. It's just normal.
Mhm.
We've become desensitized. So it's the days of knowing the days of lot that are before us. I do believe that we are looking at a generation that is right, that will create the second coming of, or this at the generation that is right to direct God for their toys, like the days of Noah in Genesis chapter 6, every imagination of the poetry days in the mind, the evil continues, evil come forth, unfortunately. Yeah. I hope I didn't just say too much, but that's such a candid. I'm just being candid.
Nah, I appreciate it. And what you just said reminded me of the Garden of Eden and the snake saying, has God say that you cannot eat of any tree of the garden, like that lie, just that how the enemy will slip that little lie in that it's normal for couples to, bring other people in the bedroom while talking about something else and just, seeing how the occult does that and just how it's so prevalent in today's day, in my generation below me. Man, it's powerful. I thank you so much for what you're doing. Um, I do want to ask you too, because when I started to learn about this, and it's a ton of factors, but I dealt with anxiety and just like, man, like, all right, new knowledge. What can I do? And, just kind of feeling helpless and just a lot of thoughts. Then dealing with family members who don't understand and friends who don't understand. So I wanted to ask you, like, is that something that you ever dealt with? Because I know God told you about, you were doing this, and then God's like, hey, JG deception. And then it just catapults into something almost not totally different, but just kind of different than what you were originally doing. But yeah, have you ever dealt with that? Is that common? What do you think about that?
It is common. There's a lot of people become anxious because, well, first and foremost, we grow up, and there is a there's a concept of what life is that is built up in us, like a perspective of life. The world around us is something that is put into is trained in it by our parents, and we're educated by the schools that we go to perceive the world and through a specific lenses. And then when this type of information comes, it's like you're knocking down the whole construct of what you traditionally have thought life is.
Yeah.
There's a whole new um I'm about to say it this way. There's a whole lens now
Mm.
that you're looking at the world through.
Yeah.
And just like a person, eh, eh, you have to become acclimated to seeing things through this new lens.
Yeah.
Your eyes are adjusted to seeing this new lens. So people tend to experience anxiety, and especially when you know this information, but the majority of people that are within your circle of life don't know this information. Your mother, your father, your brother, your sisters, your close friends. So now you've got this perspective, this new world view that your close family members and friends do not have. Do not have, and you're functioning with, you're multiplying with of family members and friends with this world view that makes you stick up like a sore thumb, so to say. That's the only thing that's cheerleader. They're crazy, like you're crazy. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense?
Man, you're just telling my story for we're gonna keep going. Keep going. That makes so much sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the word was a paradigm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now you're looking at it through a whole lens, whole different paradigm that you're dealing with now. Uh, and yeah, that can definitely cause you to become innocent. The fact now you're saying things are not what it's like the Twilight Zone. Let's be
Yeah.
okay. It's like the Twilight. But I would encourage everybody to realize that that anxiety really derives from us looking at life and looking at dealing with life in our own strength, in our own wisdom, and in not realizing this space of time and this formation common, that we realize that though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me.
Yeah.
You know, that because perfect love casteth out all fear. And that's that anxiety.
Mm.
That's that anxiety. So that anxiety is a direct result, or I shouldn't say direct result. I should just simply say it's an indicator of our need to draw closer to Christ, have a closer communion with Him. Because in truth, yeah, we can't deal with these things by ourselves.
Mm. Okay, so you spoke earlier, in light of that, you spoke earlier and you talked about how, Jay-Z literally had to come up and kind of almost defend himself in his interview.
Right.
From what I know about people like that with power, they don't like doing stuff like that. So my question to you is, in your total faith journey, it's a two-part question. What type of, just attacks have you received after that? And then like, how have you just endured? Like, you've been walking with God for a long time. Like, just a regular believer is going to have a lot of stumbling blocks. How have you endured and continue to run this race with God and just walk with Him in a relationship with Him?
I appreciate you. So yes, I've gotten a lot of attacks. I used to get a lot of uh, death threats, emails, phone calls, and that I used to get consistent, especially around 2008, 2009, in fact, and used to get a lot of those. Uh, Not as much now. There's still things that come in different ways. Most important aspect of your question is how to maintain that consistent relationship with the Lord. I made mention of the fact that from the time the Lord called me out, my walk with Him was not just I accepted Christ and now everything was just peace, what He don't peace. I learned through I learned the failures that I experienced early out in my walk with the Lord. Early out in my walk with the only way that I'd be steadfast was if I truly realized that it lies after death daily. I have to die. I have to make this rededication of my life to the Son, to the earth on a daily basis. I'm a married man. I told my wife very early out in my and on that one. Wait for them. I'm not going to say good morning. They're good morning. And I know it sounds crazy. And literally until they hear the rest of it. I tell them I'm not going to say good morning to you. I'm not going to talk to you. So when I get up in the first person that I have to do. So I get up in the morning, I get down on my knees, I pray, and I go spend time over it. And after I spend my time with you, with the Lord, then I go to my wife. I'll speak in the morning and I talk with her. And I let her know I can never be the husband that you need me to be without Christ. And that's the reason why. When I wake up in the morning, I must spend God in communion. And then I'll come and talk. Because if I talk to you before I establish that community to the Lord and that connection, then I might say every morning, you say, they come to me, or you might say to me, my breath stinks or something like that. And all of a sudden I look at that and there's an argument that arises out of nothing. But if I go and spend that time with the Lord and commune with him, and then I come to you, say, good morning, and you're like, sweetheart, man, I heard your breath is not smoking all that, right? Yeah. I just go brush my teeth and that's and then the story. See what I'm saying? The realization of the fact without I can do nothing. Without God, the only thing that I can do is sin against him. Without God, the only thing that I'm going to do is unrighteousness. That's the thing that has led me to realize my weakness and my and supply. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's powerful, and I think that discipline is needed. Many men of God, speaking of waking up early, and I mean the Bible talks about it. Um, so just that communion with God. Oh, and this can be this quickly, like over your years, I would assume it's over 2 decades now. You walking with the Lord and Jesus. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Um, what is one thing he's kind of shown you through the yeah, I would too. One thing, he's kind of just showing you through the years from when you were more of a babe in Christ to now.
Yeah. I think the thing that I really want to say is what I just said.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure. Because there were times in my early out experience that I'll pray, spend time in my life, sharing the word of God and see the Lord doing things in people's lives or in Lord the miracles in my life. And me experiencing victories over habits that used to be captive and you captive time. And I would start to think at a time I was vocalize. Clearly, I began to vocalize. So if I quickly began to think within myself, I'm strong.
Yeah.
And because of that self-deception and because of that there would be times that I might jump up and not spend time with God and pray, do that and just to continue in that same path of realizing my great reward. And sure enough, anytime I was foolish to think that I had obtained some level of strength, I had fallen. And it was through these failures that I experienced that I was broken down to where I absolutely have no strength. I mean, it's one thing to say it, but then really this is a thing that started to know it.
Yeah.
And I had to get humble to know it.
Yeah.
This strength, I do not have strength. Everything that I have ever overcome in my life is only because of Christ in me. It's only because it's Philippians 2:13, which says that God comes he to work in both to will and to do of his good pleasure. Independent of God of working won't be, I am powerless. And that's the thing that being the most important lesson that I've come to realize it was outside of you, I can't say anything. And that there is no such thing as things rigid upon.
Was was it hard? Was it hard for you as a man to come to that realization? Because we are, especially in today's society, the thought was we're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be protectors, supposed to be warriors. To realize that our strength is really only his strength that he lends to us.
100%. 100%. That as I stated, that's gonna be the real thing of anger. Because this is something that the Lord had to really patiently work with me to learn. And falling on my face over and over and over again un- until I just came to the realization that this is the pattern. There's an equal pattern. I'm walking with the Lord, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And then I start trusting himself. And the trusting in self leads to becoming lackadaisical and undisciplined in certain aspects of my life, specifically speaking in communion with the Lord. And then I find myself going back into my obedience. So the disconnect clearly was that I wasn't connected. And this is what has left me in a position where I have to really acknowledge I'm not strong. We would love to say that we're so wide. We would love to say that we're so strong. That's this person, but there's some picture with this you can learn. This whatever garbage we might say. But I think the Lord, that realization has come to that totally in my weakness that I made strong. Only in my weakness that I made strong. Only in my weakness that I made strong. I'm not saying anything unique or special, and I know I'm speaking very candid right now. I appreciate just having a candid conversation, but candid conversation. If there is anything above all is that ultimately currently just about whatever it is about what I've learned from walking with the Lord all these years is the fact that our strength is in God. That's inferior. I am helpless and I'm powerless in the kingdom of Christ. The only thing I can do without Christ is sin.
Mm. Mm.
And do it very, very well.
Yeah. Man, yeah, you speaking to me right now. I really appreciate that because I definitely get in that pattern of, well, I just commune with God later, or I get to it, but it's without God, without creating that discipline, that communion with God, you don't have that discipline, then you just fall right back in.
That's right.
But okay, I wanted to talk to you kind of about the things that are happening in today. So
Sure.
obviously, I know you spoke on Iran. I've been tuned in. What are your beliefs on our current, our geopolitical and inside of U.S. our current political situation, as far as end times and occult things like that?
So there's a lot going on right now. Obviously, we're currently in this conflict with Iran. The United States of America is moving with a type of aggression that historically we've never seen before. We've never seen a U.S. president that's exercised authority that that is made upon the Oval Office, and that this current president is exercising. Matter of fact, he really exercised his power. He's actually exercising authority in ways that you really not
Yeah.
legal boy in some ways to be doing, but he's looking. But all jokes aside, I truly believe that we're seeing the fulfillment of Bible prophecy. Jesus mentions in Matthew chapter 24, beginning at verse 4, take heed that notifications. shall deceive you, for many shall come out my name, saying that I have Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall have wars and rumors of wars, see that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Verse 7, that there's so nation shall rise up against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places, and all things of the beginnings of sorrows. And we see all those things that Jesus spoke of. Nation rising up against nation, racial tension, kingdom against kingdom, conflict between nations, famines, pestilences, earthquakes in diverse places. We're seeing all these things happening right now simultaneously with greater intensity and frequency than ever before in history. It perfectly fits what Jesus told us for as a harbinger of the end days prior to the second coming. The way that the United States of America is flexing its military might. It fulfills the prophetic language in Revelation chapter 13 and verse 11, which speaks of our nation under the symbol of a beast coming up out of the earth. Because in prophecy, according to Daniel chapter 7, is a symbol of a political power, a kingdom. And this nation coming up, coming two horns like a lamb initially, a nation that would advance the principles of the land, like liberty, freedom, justice, man being Jesus Christ. It says this nation will ultimately speak as a dragon. And then the dragon in the Bible, and the Bible primarily Satan. And primarily that when the dragon loses force, and when the dragon loses with devastating power, aggression, ultimately devastating power, now to be a devastating power. States of America, ending that attributes in the action of legislation that it's putting out and the way that it's functioning, not only within our world, it's clearly within our world, is he clearly on the global scene. Um, we're, 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 we are, we are in a time that the prophets of old, prophet in which they would be alive to see. They would be alive to see today.
Oh,
It's happening all around us. Um, for this nation to be in a position where it can be used, and to all the nations of our world to accept what the Bible calls the mark of belief. It has to be sitting in a position of geopolitical and military prominence. And it's very clear to me. And all we have to do is continue to watch. All we have to do is continue to watch. It's very clear to me that the United States of America is crushing any opposite that would be an obstacle for it to reach that position of global prominence. And all I have to do is encourage trying to read that watches this. There's nothing into this. Just watch what happens in the months to come. Watch what happens in relation to Russia and China. Watch what happens in this if this is not going to turn out well for Iran, this is not going to turn out well for the other nations. Now, the United States of America is going to handle its day as well. Just like Babylon at its height fell, the United States of America is going to experience its fall as well. But this is not it. Not now. Yet. It still has more that has to do prophetically. And the pattern that it's currently following is right in line with what the Bible says that this nation needs to do. Yeah.
okay. All right. You touched on the mark of the beast. Like from
Okay.
your studies, and your knowledge and your beliefs, what is the mark of the beast? Because this is a hot topic for a lot of believers, especially new young believers. What is the mark of the beast? How do we know what to look for with that?
Okay, good question. So the first thing that I always encourage people to look at is the fact that the Bible calls it in Revelation chapter 3. Matter of fact, first of all, The first time you see that language mark of the beast lay into multiple Revelations and the book of Revelation, 14, 15, 14, 15.
Mm.
The Bible calls it the mark beast. So in seeking to understand what mark the beast is, the only intelligent process would be to first know beast.
Who is the beast? Yeah.
Exactly. Because it's the mark of the beast. So to come to an accurate conclusion, you first must identify who's by. And if you can do that accurately, you've already taken care of the majority. It's like when the majority, there's an old saying from a cartoon that says, knowing is half the battle. He's got this saying, you've got to have confidence if you know the confidence. So the beast is the first beast of Revelation, chapter 13, starting at verse 1. The Bible says there, and I, John, stood up there and stood upon the sand, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon its horns 10 crescents, crown, and upon its heads the name of the last. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. His feet were as the feet of a bear, as was that as a mouth of the. And the dragon gave him his power, his pursuit, and great authority. And I saw one of its heads as it were wounded to death, and the wound was healed, and all the world wandered after the beast. So I believe that's Revelation chapter 3, verses 1 through 4. So a beast, as I made mention of, based on chapter 7, is a symbol of a king of a political power. It says that this beast that comes up out of this beast, on its head is the name blasphemy. That's very telling, because blasphemy is not a terminology. A kingdom is a secular, simple power. Blasphemy, that's a religious terminology. So, because this kingdom, this political power, has the name blasphemy, it's letting us know that this political power, this kingdom, its main character trait is religious.
Yeah.
It's the head, right? And the main character trait to its kingdom is that it engages in the act of blasphemy. If you look in the Bible, in particular in the Gospels, you find out that blasphemy can be attributed to one claiming that they have the ability to forgive sin. Like when Jesus said to the paralytic, thy sins be forgiven, there was a Pharisee standing by and saying, why does this man thus people ask me? Who can forgive sin but God only? Okay, so blasphemy is when a man claims the ability to forgive sin. Then another occasion, remember that the Pharisees were beginning to stone Christ. And he said, many good works. He said, many good works have I known me. And the Pharisees said, and the good works we stone thee not. For good works we stone thee not, but for blasphemy. Because thou being a man, makest thyself God.
Mm-hmm.
So if a man claims the prerogative of divinity, if he claims God, that's blasphemy. So now you take those two things and put them together. The first beast of Revelation chapter 13, it's a power
Mm-hmm.
that has a predominant characteristic of blasphemy. So it's leadership claims the position of God, and that it can forgive men of their sins. There is only one entity in existence on the face of the planet Earth that fits that cap.
Mm.
And it's the Vatican, it's the Roman Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Only. Their leadership, and by the way, is the Vatican or the papacy political in nature? Answer, yes. Vatican is the smallest country on the face of planet Earth. I've been there once or twice. Right? But think about this. Smallest country on the face of planet Earth, a country with a country within a country.
Yeah.
But it's the leader, but the leader of that country, is the only leader. When he comes to power, every leader from the face of planet Earth goes to before him. You've never seen all the leaders and the other leaders of the world come the world when the president of the United States was was it all but it all. But every leader from every nation goes and finds himself before the Pope, his part himself. Does the papacy and its priesthood claim that they have the ability to forgive sins? The answer is yeah. The very Pope of Rome, his official title is the Vicar of Christ, which not only means that he's a representative of Christ, but in their own writings and language, they make it clear that himself is as secret on earth, that he is divine. That's blasphemy. So when we look at the symbolism in the Bible, it points to no power other than the Roman Catholic Church, the papacy led up by its popes. So the mark of Christ must be the mark of the authority of that system. Once you have that under your belt, all you need to do is now identify what does this system identify as its mark of authority. And you can look through a host of their writings, and they make a mockery, I might say, in their own writing of Protestants, and Protestants are those that, the very term Protestant, it's interesting that most Protestants don't even realize that the term Protestant means those that protest. And who they will protest for, I guess, is the Catholic Church. That's where Protestantism comes from. Those who actually said we are going to abide by the Bible and not follow tradition and the dictate and men and being the word of God. This system states that the change of the Sabbath from the seventh day of the week to the first day of the week is the mark of their authority. They state this. They feel I can tell writing. Oh, they can show them that. And they say by virtue of the fact that listen in so-called Bibles, and these are called Bible books, keep the first day instead of the seventh day, they're acknowledging the authority of the Roman Catholic Church. Because this chain, at least, is more authority than the Roman Catholic Church, or as they like to define themselves, the Mother Church.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, they're not gonna like this one, Forerunner.
I know.
They're not gonna like this one, but this is one of the things that I learned earlier in your teachings, and it just made so much. I couldn't, I went back, I studied, and it just made so much sense. But well, you pretty much summed it up. But I do, for the people who are wondering, because for me growing up, I didn't know what Sabbath was. Right,
Sure.
all I knew was church on Sunday. All right, especially being in, from the South.
Sure.
It's church every Sunday.
Sure.
What is the Sabbath? What is Sabbath?
Good question. Sure. So, and I hope I can answer this question as distinctly as possible. So, the Sabbath is the seventh day. The word Sabbath is in and of itself means rest. The only two institutions that we still have with us today from creation are marriage, and the Sabbath. God made marriage on the sixth day. And on the seventh, in the book of Genesis 7 and 1 and verse 1, It says, the matter of fact, it says, on the seventh day, God ended his work. On the seventh day, God ended, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work, which God created and made. And God blessed the seventh day, sanctified it, because that in it, he had rested from all his work, which God created and made. The seventh day's Sabbath was blessed and sanctified, which means set aside for holy use, holy purpose. All right. So, which brings a couple of things to the core items I think is important. And number one, the Sabbath is an institution that God gave to them, not to the Jews. Yeah. There was no such thing as a Jew. There was just man, Adam and Eve. So the whole idea that the Sabbath is an institution is not biblical. That's why when Jesus said in Mark chapter, that's why when Jesus said in Mark chapter made for man, he said the Sabbath was made for man. And then he goes on to say, and not man for the Sabbath. And he goes on to say, and not man for the Sabbath, meaning that the Sabbath was made for the benefit of humanity. It was to be a blessing to us, to be a blessing to humanity. Wasn't made for the benefit of a day. Mm-hmm. We were made on the sixth day. The Sabbath was made on the seventh. Mm-hmm. He made it for us to be a blessing to us, And then Jesus says he's Lord of the Sabbath. There's a question that will arise, and then people can say, well, which day is the seventh day? Which is the seventh day? The seventh day that we have is something different from the one, not different from the one that God blessed and sanctified on the day of creation, sanctified in the creation week, and the creation week. Mm. Well, scientifically, I'll start from there. Astronomers, which are those that are responsible for studying, celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, the stars, celestial bodies, the type of spiritualism. We're just talking about regular natural star. Okay. These individuals have been able to identify that although there have been changes that have been made to the calendar, there's never been one change that has been made to the cycle. Never. No. So the same sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 has been a continuum from the beginning to now. No change. All right? Natural sign. Then people will say, well, the Bible never says anything about Saturday. They're 100% correct. Because the days of the week, the names rather, that we have for the days of the week, these names were created by pagans. Whether you look at Sunday, which had to actually deal with the day for worship, the sun and sun. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, etc., etc. These were names that were placed on the days of the weekly cycle by pagans. But even though these pagan names have been placed on the days, it doesn't change the decades for their sequence. You understand what I'm saying? Let's just put it like this. Let's say you had 6 brothers and sisters. You had 6 siblings. One of them, his name is Jane, the other Billy, the other is Tom, the other Amanda, the other is Lisa, and another guy is Peter, and then there's Curtis, right? And one is the first child, the second child, the third child, the fourth child, the fifth child, the sixth child, and you're the seventh child, right? Okay, fine. If some people in your neighborhood start saying, oh, I'm going to call the oldest child Champagne. I'm going to call Tom Trigger. I'm going to call, you get where I'm going with this. It doesn't make a difference what name. People might part with your brothers and sisters. They still are who they are, and was still born in the same sequence when it's born in.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying? So this doesn't change anything. All right. So the day that we call for their day
Yeah.
is the seventh day.
Mm.
Has never changed. And then, and unfortunately, these are arguments that present just to kind of circumvent dealing with the truth.
Mm.
Because every person that goes to church on Sunday, they know what the first day of the week is.
Mm.
They know it's Sunday because when they have Easter Sunday, we say Jesus rose from the grave on what? On the first day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy for us to identify that Thursday was early sunset morning.
Mm.
Well, if you have the capacity to know what the first day is, do you have the ability to count 6 more days to know which one of the 7 days?
Yeah, of course.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Mm.
Okay. So the Sabbath is this institution that God has set up, and he set it up as a benefit for humanity. He set it up as a time that we come aside from all of our secular labors, and we have the ability to spend time in communion with men, with family, and in being a blessing to our fellow man.
Mm.
Simple and plain. To enjoy what God has made for our benefit to creation, and to share that love that he's bestowed upon us with others. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So the idea that people make us suspend and say, well, I don't believe in just worshiping one day a week. I worship every day.
Mm.
I 100% agree with that. We're called to worship God every day. The Bible never said anything about the Sabbath just being a day of worship. Love. We're to love God with all the heart, soul, and mind every day. Worship, work every day. But the seventh day is a weekly memorial of the communion that God desires to experience with us, the love that he has for us. It's a memorial of him as our creator, of him as our provider, as him, everything that that you can think of in relationship to his goodness. The seventh day is a continual reminder. And even as we had our conversation here for the last hour or so, there's something that we were talking about earlier, and that's the fact that even as men that are seeking to have a relationship with the Lord, people have this tendency to forget their need of the Lord. We start going about life doing our own thing.
Mm.
The seventh day, the Sabbath, has been set there as a reminder to us: don't forget the Lord your God.
Mm.
And don't forget that it's at him that we live and have our being. It's not because of my strength and my wisdom. It's because of the Lord, my creator, working in my life and working to be. It's a continual point of leading us to keep our eyes fixing the one who loves us best. Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people who have found the Sabbath, believe in the Sabbath, and sometimes you kind of get, and it kind of sucks. I think it beat down a little bit with not the Sabbath sucks, but you get what sucks about it is you get beat down by other believers a little bit who, and I do believe they are still true believers. But it's just, the Lord brings us all to knowledge in different ways, and we all have our own different walks, but you get beat down by, I think, just a lot of believers with their beliefs. 'Cause I think it's another paradigm shift. It's another,
100%.
I've been doing it. How can, I've been walking with the Lord. I talk to the Lord. I speak with the Lord. How is it possible that, you know, the day I worship on is not right, and I've got accustomed to my life. Or even if it's, right or wrong, even though we believe how we believe, that this is not what I should be doing, or what I'm doing is wrong, or, some may call it sin, whatever, however you want to go deep into it. So, it can get tough,
100%.
especially in that community. But,
I don't mind. That's not something new or unique to our time. When we look back at the scriptures, for instance, to the nation of Israel, we see a people that over the course of time, tradition took the place of truth in many ways.
yeah,
And they were sincerely, I think that's the good word to use, sincerely engaging in their religious practices for hundreds of years, yea, thousands. And yet, a great portion of their belief system was more based off of tradition than truth that was given by God. And when Jesus came, he had to draw them out of the pile of deception that they had heaped upon themselves to set them on the platform of truth. And that's why Jesus' presence was so disruptive to the Pharisees, to the scribes, to the general people. This is the reason why, even though many people came and listened initially, the majority were not to step out and say, I'm a full believer and follower in what this man is presenting to us, because it is totally opposed to their tradition. And the sad thing is, Jesus himself said that men, Lord have mercy, teaching for doctrine the commandments of men.
Yeah.
This is what was going on, and it's going on today. It's going on today. But God will always have people. Just like he said to the woman at the well that she married to. He said to that woman, when she asked him, she said, our fathers worship in this mountain, but you guys worship in Jerusalem. Which one is right? In John chapter. And then he looked at her and said, woman, you worship, you know not what. In other minutes, you were saying, you're confused. You don't know the truth. And then he said to her, salvation is of the Jews. Now, when he made that statement, salvation is of the Jews, he wasn't saying that the Jews are going to be saved. What he was saying, in the message of salvation, the Jews had it.
Yeah.
But he went on to say, but the hour we're coming, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. So he says they have the truth, but they have a remote spirit. And when one has a remote spirit and they have, and the things of their possession, they'll misinterpret the truth. And that puts them in a paradigm that is independent of truth, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But God says, I'm working in a time, in these last days, I'm working on the minds of people that they will have both spirit and truth. And so just to simply say, it's not unique to our time that people are more led by tradition than, and thus saith the Lord. But those that are true in heart and hearty, fearful, truth seekers, willing to surrender everything, God will help us to come into life and to walk with. Yeah.
Amen. But no, I think I'm gonna end on that one, man.
Sure.
Chris, Forerunner, I want to thank you so much for your time and just for you being candid. You know, I haven't seen a lot of, you didn't have to be, I haven't seen a lot of interviews, obviously giving your testimony where you just, have been candid. So I really appreciate you just being open and vulnerable and sharing and just, letting the people see like who you really are, man. I really feel like that was cool and dope. And you didn't have to do that and give me your time.
I appreciate you, Curtis.
So okay. Where can the people find you, follow you, connect with you, buy your courses, things like that?
Okay. So we can, our YouTube is Forerunner, Forunner, Chronicles.com, or the number 4, the Forerunner777.com. And of course, you can just find us on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram, and find us on Twitter. It's Forerunner, FORUNNER777. And Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, to encourage everybody to follow. And may God just continue to bless you as well, Curtis. I appreciate what you're doing, brother. May to bless your ministry and to bring people to the light. Help godly men and women stand up in Christ in these last days. You're doing something that's important. May God keep you faith, be courageous.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you for your time. But that's going to be it for today's episode of the Male to Man podcast. I really enjoyed. This is, again, one of my favorite ones. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.